And how did I not forget? Well, I had a bit of tape saying record on it up there. Right. Now, I think I might be able to move that over there, and then I can see a few more, have a few more faces. Right, yes. Well, thank you very much for tuning in on this early Saturday evening or Saturday morning, wherever you might be in the world. Yes, I'm sporting my new smock, just in case I forget who I am. But yeah, my first Zoom since getting back from the symposium in the United States, and wow, what a fabulous time I had. You'll be able to read all about it in the Professional Woodturner magazine that the RPT published. That's coming out later in the year. But it really was a wonderful event to go to. I had an absolutely wonderful, amazing time, followed by a week in Canada that was lovely as well. Um, I think I've made some good friends. I've met some friends for the first time in real life. And who knows, maybe I'll go again. But I do need to get over the jet lag quicker. It took quite a while. Right. This is what you're here to see, me turning an ogee, but I suspect there'll be some texturing and colouring if I don't run out of time and waffle on too long. Um, and I'm going to do it on a piece of beech. It's not a huge piece of beech, 9 inches by 1.5 inches. But I've just got a few features there on that little diagram to point out. And if we work from left to right, one of the things I do when I'm making this shape is I put a little an angle on the sides of the bowl. I think that gives it a little bit more lift rather than it being flat. So that left-hand arrow there, but you can always round that over, um, and let's put it down there. You can always round that over with sandpaper anyway. Moving along into the foot, you'll see I've got a foot with a recess, and that's generally what I tend to use on these platters. On a 9-inch blank, my normal sea jaws are a little bit too big for that, so I'm going to be using my little record SC2 chuck, which will have a recess of about 40 or so millimeters. But you'll notice there, if we look at the right hand arrow, the middle arrow, there's just a very slight little dish in there, little concave, rather than it being level. It adds a little bit more interest in the bottom. You could always texture that and put some rings in there if you want to. Coming to the next arrow from the right, that little inside of the foot where the recess is, rather than leaving that as a sharp angle, I always smooth that over. I mean, you can do it with sanding. I tend to do it with a little tickler with a gouge, either a spindle gouge or a bowl gouge. And then the outside of the foot, you can see it's got a little curve on there. Again, I don't leave that as a straight edge. It just looks a little bit clunky. So that's softer and looks a bit more appealing to the eye, rather than the sort of sudden coming up and then running out. But hopefully, if I've drawn it properly, it probably could be drawn a little properly. It looks like it's a little bit flat coming out of the foot. Ideally, I want the curve to go all the way from that foot or into that junction where the foot sits on the base. It does look a little flat. I need to accent that a little bit more. And you can probably tell that the feet, rather than being cut level, are slightly undercut. So they're a bit of an angle, so that they'll sit on the outside edge. So that's the shape that I'm going to be going for. Going to do it, as I say, on a piece of beech. I'm going to just mostly use a bowl gouge for this. I'll get my safety glasses, bit grubby, put those ones away, and I get a face shield as well. And oh, these have got lots of stain on. It's going to be interesting. I'll be seeing things that aren't there. And let's get it turned first of all. So I think I can turn that one off.
Okay.
So bowl gouge, here we go. Nice long handle, Simon Hope tool handles, crown gouges, and I've got a long grind on here. I'm just going to start off by truing up my blank. If I come onto the overhead, this is the first from my first visit to Dowman Timbers. This has got a little bit of a wave on it.
Lovely.
So that's going to cut down our depth a little bit. So I'm going to, because the face is a little wavy, I'm going to do the face first and then I'm going to do the edge. Face shield on though, and bring you in on the tailstock. Let's get it spinning. So this cut, I see, I was doing a course for beginners, and a lot of beginners, I think, forget to get the bevel rubbing and then turn the tool till you get a cut. That's the safe way to do this cut. It is a cut that you want your bevel in contact with the wood. So bevel, and then you can just alter the cut with the twist of your back hand. So not cutting, twist, and cutting. And I'm just transferring my weight backwards. So I've got my feet one. Oh, there we go. That's reset itself. One in front of the other. I think you can't see that. Let's bring that down. Bit slow today. Yeah, so rather than having my feet parallel, so that when I rock back, I'm going to fall over, I just have one foot behind the other, and I just shift. All of the movement is my body. None of it is the tool. Back again, not cutting, cutting. And just transfer that weight. Still a little bit of judder out here. If we turn it off, we'll see that there's probably still some uncut there. But it's always good after you've done the first few cuts just to inspect the blank, make sure there aren't any hidden surprises. I have found nails before as well as splits. Okay. So one of the other things about cutting this way, what I've found some people do is that they'll come in and they'll start cutting from this edge. It'll focus in a moment, he says. It will focus. There we go. And it's tricky coming in right at the edge with your tool like this, because if you don't have your bevel rubbing and you just stick the edge in, that's where you get the horrible nasty catches. I was doing a course with some beginners and intermediates, and doing this on the outside of a bowl is pretty terrifying when you've got nine inches diameter, and before you know it, the whole bowl has gone round several times and you've gone chuck 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 and got some horrible noises. Big chunks come out of it. It's very, very scary. If you are a beginner, I wouldn't recommend starting your pull cut out here until you're confident. Come in instead with a little push cut, find the bevel, come back, and then move in. And notice how that bevel is pretty much parallel with the surface of the wood. Right, to cut this edge true, just give it a spin, and rather than come in here where it's going to hit miss, come in from the corner. So again, there's a little bit of bevel support there, not putting it all the way over so that you're just going to come in and hit the edge. That is going to be nasty. But just a small little cut with the very nose of the tool. So there we go. That's what happens if you don't do it with the nose of the tool. And you'll notice I'm putting an angle on. And again, have a stop, check the wood, see how it's cutting, make sure there are no splits or cracks in it. There's possibly, no, I think it's like a little branch maybe was growing through there. Okay, and then because this is uneven, as you can see it running around, this side is fairly straight, but this side is not. I'm going to come in with a flute closed cut from this side. I think I can probably be able to see that on here. It's important that the flute is closed. And what I've now got is a straight edge here, so I can see, that's where the top of my bowl is going to be. The angle is just about all right. We've got some tear out here. Focus in a moment, as you can see, but that's fine for now. So let's return to here, and up here you can see we've got some little cracks in the wood. That was where I wasn't paying attention myself and caught the edge. Typical. Right, so I'm going to make my recess, and I'm going to be using a small chuck. I've set up some calipers. Oddly, I don't normally do that for this chuck. And so this chuck is about the limit of a size of blank for this chuck. So I'm going to expand into it. So I'll just mark this off. So there we go. That'll do it. So just put the left leg in and check that it meets there. Slightly on the large size, but I made the calipers slightly on the small side anyway. So that recess, I can cut some of it with my gouge. And it doesn't have to be super deep. The rest of it I'm going to cut with my skew, my round skew. Just got to bring the tool rest back a little bit. So there we go. That's pretty much done. And so what you're looking for here is that this far point, the long point of the skew, goes right into that corner, and you've got it at a bit of an angle. Sometimes you'll see a sort of two lines appearing there, and you want one line, one corner. So there you go. You can see there's another little line there, just in the foot. I'll remove that. Show you what I mean. So that's just one corner, one clean, crisp corner for it to go into. Now, foot size, I generally tend to do this by eye, and usually I just mark it off to begin with a parting tool. So just get this ready. Come in a little bit, and I sort of go for it being a third of the overall diameter. So I'll do a little mark like that, and then I'll sort of have a little look. I would never probably use a ruler, but let's have a look. That's 90, that's 60, so it's not quite a third. I'm standing in the way, aren't I? Not quite a third, so I've got room to bring it in a little more, and that gives me more space for my ogee as well. I think I can go a tiny bit more. Let's go there. Now, if I bring up the picture again, if we look at the depth of the foot, we can see the depth of the foot, the second arrow from the left, that's much shallower on this side than the depth of the recess. So when we expand into that recess, we're not just expanding across this narrow bit of foot, but it's going into all the solid wood behind it, which runs most of the way out. So that's why we can have a relatively shallow foot. I might need to take that a little deeper once I put the chamfer on, but let's just do that and have a look. So undercut the foot so it will sit on that outside edge. Doesn't have to be by much. Have a look and check we've got enough depth for the chuck to grip on, which we have. So now I'll just use a tiny little little spindle gouge just on that very outer corner. It's a barely perceptible difference to the eye, but that's a lot of difference to the finger. And because I'm going to be using this a separate chuck, I've got the luxury of just checking I've got a good grip in there, nice and strong and deep enough. Yeah, that will be fine. They really are a good little chuck, this one, for small work up to about 8 inches or so. This will be nearly 8 inches by the time we've shaped it. So I've got one point of my circle, the curves established, which is here. So that's where the convex curve will start from, right from that point, and it's going to come out to a point here on the rim. So I'll mark quite a wide rim, and then that gives me my 2 areas to work for. So I've got a line here and a line here, and somewhere roughly in the middle, about there, is where I want the curves to change direction. So I generally start by working away this corner here, and it's good practice for getting the curve. So the curve is just a swing of the body. It's not anything else other than that. It's not done by me swinging my arms round. Another camera gone to sleep. It's not done by me swinging my arms round, but it's done while keeping the tool in and just swinging my hips, putting my left hip forward. I could just waste away the wood just by running across it, but it's good to get the shape going, I think, even at this stage. So I'll show you that on a higher angle. So coming in, and I'm trying to keep this in the middle of the 2 lines. So I've got one line here, and I'm looking at joining those 2 together. Do need to adjust the start position, but you can see, rather than it being a straight line, this edge, we're getting a curve going already, and it's cutting very nicely. I do like working with beech. I worked with hard maple in America, and that was a bit of a challenge. It really was tough wood. So we're nearly there. Just keep going. So we're about a cut away or so from the line, about a 1/4 of an inch or so. We've got a nice curve there. We'll move on now to doing the concave curve, which is a slightly different movement. You've got 2 choices here. I'll bring it out onto the wide shot again. So you can stand here in line, and you can swing this way and do a pull cut, or you can come over this side, and I'll show you that in a different camera, so it'll make a bit more sense. So you can come out this side and you can push the tool round. Now when you're pushing the tool round, it's going to be away from your body, which can make it a bit harder to control. So you need to find the one that sort of works best for you. To begin with, we'll just start with a little nibbling cut. And you can see I'm swinging my hip, keeping the tool against my bodies. But I've got a bit of depth to go to get into the bottom here. come in a bit closer. So I want to get right to the bottom of that groove. And then at that transition point, it's just about blending the two curves together. So, pick it up. So I had one cut left or so for the line there, which I've now worked into by blending the two together. So from that top view, you can see we've got our curves starting here, changing direction roughly in the middle. And now what we need to do is feel it with our fingers and feel all the lumps and bumps and ridges. There are some very obvious ones, some obvious tool mark ones. I'll come in and show you those. So you can see here. So now it's a case of refining the shape. Now there are a number of ways that you can do this. Sometimes I'll do it with a scraper, sometimes I'll do it with the gouge. I'm going to do it with the gouge, then close the flute, and you can use a shear scraping cut. I'll just come in, let's see how close I can bring that in. Let's take that out of the way. So I've got the flute closed, that's open, that's closed, pointing at 3 o'clock. The wing is just going to catch it. I'm going to drop the handle so that I'm going to cut at a sheer angle. Might need to put the tool rest down a little lower, and I'll bring you out on this wide shot and show you that. So handle down. And just running the gouge round. Just got a tiny bit more to take away right near the foot. There we go, that's got it. Okay, let's inspect that bit. That's better. So I'm just going to adjust the tool rest, because with this cut you want the tool rest close to your work so that the blade is very well supported. I mean, one of the problems with this design of tool rest is that I can't rest right on the very front of the tool rest and get this cut. The tool rest gets in the way. You can see there I'm actually running off the back of the tool rest, which is not ideal. So it's giving, that's why it's important to have your tool rest as close as possible, because I've got more, you know, a longer distance from the tool. The fulcrum point is a bit further away. Maybe I need some new tool rest. Right, so I'm going to come round. And just roll that out. To bring you a better view of that. So onto the wood. You can see the handle is down. So now the appearance should be improved. Okay, there's a little shadow line there, which is telling me that it's not, just here, telling me that it's not a smooth transition. So it's quite hard to spot that. Maybe you can see it in some parts of it, of the wood, and others, but I can definitely feel here there's a little bump. And that's often one of the things that I find about doing this shape. There's a little bump somewhere in the transitions. I'm just going to mark it with the pencil. Just to show you where I'm going to be working. So it's just here. It's very hard to see, just a little bit beyond it as well, actually, more here. So that's the area to work on, rather than oh well, I'll just keep cutting the whole of the shape and then I'll get rid of the bump. If you don't get rid of the bump locally, you'll just cut that shape into it. So find that area lightly, because it's not really very deep. Just work that area. It's tempting to try and feel it while it's spinning, but you don't really get a very accurate feel if you do that. Okay, so it's from here running around. Fine. I've nearly got it. Just a tiny, tiny little bit left there. And you can run backwards and forwards on this bit with that cup. But remember, it's important to keep it with your flute closed. Okay. So these final cuts are the ones that probably take the most time, but they're the ones that will, get your work to the best standard. And yes, you could say, well, I could do it with sandpaper. And you can to some extent, but it takes a long time to readjust a big lump when you can just do it with a few little scrapes. Right, just about there. Just a tiny bit of work needed here. And then it will be ready for sanding. Yeah, great. Happy with that. Right. So one other little thing to do, if I bring back the little picture, is the outside of the foot. So I'm just, at the moment, if I bring you on the overhead, we might see it. Yeah, do you want to come out a little bit? So you can see here the foot is coming out and it's got a right angle, which I don't like. It's not very interesting. So I'm going to just go in there with, you can do this with a small bowl gouge as well, but just a little spindle gouge just to smooth that edge away. Let's bring you in a bit up and take that out of the way. So we just get that done. Focus on my hand. Not playing ball, is it? Let's do it on this one. Okay, so it's a very subtle cut, hardly anything removed, but it does make a lot of difference. So you can see there that chamfer edge, it's a lot softer. A few little wispy bits, but they will come off with the sanding. Okay. So for the sanding, let's see what's happening in the chat, see if I've had any questions. Oh, where did I get my new turning top from? Roger, it's my demonstrator's top from the St. Paul Symposium. Oh, I'm going to try not to get any paint on it. I wonder how long that will last. Now, you don't need me to show you the sanding, I'm sure. So I'm going to show you one of my other new purchases that I've been getting a lot of pleasure from. We just get this out of the chuck and get this chuck off. There we go. Yeah, one of the things I picked up when I went up to the Newark show is I spent some time with my friend Chris Parker, and he was using this tool, and I thought, what is that tool? And he told me it's a die grinder. And at last I've been able to find something that I can use to use some larger bits in. Right, where's the chuck key? There it is. So that's the new tool I'm going to show you, and a couple of new bits I've got for it. Just get that connected in, fixed in. nice and snug. And running true certainly on the back, which we cut, but obviously this face here needs a bit more work on it. So going to just turn a bit of that face, and then we'll get on to doing a little bit of texturing. So I've got a relatively true edge out here, so I can use that to rest my bevel on and just move the tools forward, bouncing around because it's not very straight yet. But once the cut's on, if I open up my flute a little bit, and just run across, very juddery. So that's the push cut. And in a way, I think that's a bit of a safer cut. Once you've got your edge, so the bevel is rubbing. Well, I say rubbing, gliding. You don't want any pressure on it. And it's supporting the cut. The alternative is to do the pull cut. But again, you've got to remember, get your bevel in contact with the wood first. So it's not cutting. Turn until you get the cut and then pull. And this is quite a good way to remove the wood. I just run back with the bevel in the wood, on the wood, not in the wood. And cut. So you can see there the bevel, not cutting, turn the handle, and I've got it cut. Now, our rim is pretty thick, as you can see there. So I can reduce it a little bit, but I'm going to put some quite heavy texture in. So I'm going to come in, and as I cut across, I'm going to lift my backhand, and that will make the cut deeper. Now, depending on the power of your lathe, you might find this is sort of stalling it. You can see there the cut is twice the thickness that it was originally. But what that is doing is giving me a little angle, a slant going inwards. But you'll get to a point where you can't cut all of that wood in one go. So I just come back and halve the difference. And just carry on with the cut. Again, lifting the backhand slowly. Lift. The back here, get the cut. As I'm moving the tool forward, lifting the backhand. Okay. So I don't know whether you'd be able to tell from the overhead if I've got it in the right position that there's an undercut. You can just about see it. Let's move that into a better position. So there we go. I've got the tool handle across there. There's a gap I've got, which you can just about see. Trust me, it's there. It's only about 5 millimeters, but it's enough to put a little slope on. So get this surface ready for texturing. I'm just going to, you can see we've got a little cut line there. I haven't quite smoothed it over, but again, I can use that shear scraping cut. And because this is still quite a thick rim, I can get away with coming all the way out. And again, that's a body movement cut. It's not me pulling the tool with my arms. So bit of tear out that's introduced. So let's drop the handle so I can present it at more of a shear angle. And because that's done quite a bit of heavy cutting, I'm going to swap to a fresh gouge rather than pausing to sharpen. So really slow tool feed. A little shadow in there. So sometimes that will work and get rid of it. Sometimes it won't. It's beginning to. There's a little tiny bit left. The alternative is to try one last thin push cut over the surface. And that's enough of a distance over. I'm just going to put a little tenon on there. And that's for future use so that I can grip it in a chuck and I'll get the back sanded off. Now for texturing, we've got a few little tool lines through there. They're going to sand off very easily. I'm going to need to sand the surface because if there's something that isn't textured, then it will show up. So dust extraction coming on. And sanding only take a few minutes.
Was rescued and relocated by the RSPCA. So why not try your luck?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. Here I am.
so, oh, is that a question someone's trying asking? No? Okay. So, texturing and then probably a little bit of colouring if there's time. This is the new tool. So this is the die grinder from an online retailer for the princely sum of £22. How long it's going to last will, remains to be seen. So far, it's done what I've asked of it. And the burrs I'm using are cut saw burrs. I think they're pretty much on a par with saber tooth. They come in a lovely little box, and I've got the coarse one, which is in the machine at the moment, and then a fine one, which I haven't tried yet. But when you're using these burrs, every so often, give them a little bit of a brush with a wire brush. Best when they're not spinning, just to brush out any wood that's accumulated with it in the teeth. If you do it with the blade spinning, you might end up texturing your brass brush as well. So it's a bit of a noisy tool. It's heavier than a Proxon, which I often use. for texturing. So I'm going to put some ear protection in as well. And I recommend that you wear ear protection and a face shield. And then this beautiful, lovely, soft, smooth piece of beach that we've got here, I'm going to cover with some texture. I'm going to give myself a little mark to go up to. Let's say up to about there. So ear protection going in. I've got these just little ear plugs. I won't show you all the grime and grit on them, but they're going to go in. They're going to make a difference. The texturing will take a few minutes, and I'm going to do lines, radiating lines of texture. So that's still running. Oh, I've got a question. Name of the grinder. So the name of this grinder is Katsu. You can get a Makita one that's about £110. So this was to see how I got on with it. It may be that it doesn't last and I have to get a more expensive one, but at the moment I'm perfectly fine with it. And I just saw there's a question about the speed that I was turning. It was about between 12 and 1500. Okay, here we go. Texture time. Face shield down. So dust extraction also needs to go on. There we go.
New,
What?
this new tool,
Who's muted?
this new tool,
Hey?
the new tool for
A new? What'd you say?
new tool.
A new tool? Well, yeah, I saw it the other day, actually. And I was watching him did exactly the same sort of thing. It cleaned it and I don't know.
Michael and Chris, your mic is open.
Thank you.
Okay, so you may have noticed that as I was cutting, I was doing a few lines, spinning round, doing a few more, and then I've gone back to fill in the gaps. That's a way of trying to keep the angle not exactly the same, but rather than start here and work all the way round and have it at one angle, and then as you're turning it all the way around, changing your angle, and suddenly you're going in an opposite direction. So that rough burr has done a good job of removing a lot of the material. It's not left the greatest surface behind. So I'm just going to do another cut with it, much lighter, just to remove some of the fluff. Right, now to get the spoon finished.
Sure, what the hell's the story here? Shit.
Okay, so that's not completely super smooth, but for demo purposes, I'm going to only do a couple more minutes work on there. Just notice one or two bits where it's a little bit rough still. I must have missed that bit. Let's quickly do that.
Well, what the hell's going?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Ela, so Catherine, the type of sanding disc. These are Rolock 3M bristle brushes. Show you on the overhead. So they have a little thread which goes into this holder, and find the right spot. Oh, it's a bit too bright to see it, isn't it? Don't know why that's not focusing today. Let's come in on the tailstock one. That's a bit better probably. There we go. So Scotch-Brite Rolock bristle brush. So though I was using an 80 grit one, this is a 120 one. This would be a good one to move on to next because there's still bits of fluff. You can see I haven't got rid of everything. And that just screws into this little carrier. You can get sandpaper with discs with this little thread on as well. So that's what I use. The best one I find for getting into texture because of the flexible bristles. Right. So I'm going to set up my extractor for fumes. Another camera gone to sleep. There we go. So get this turned on. So this is about £100 Amazon. It's an airbrush spray booth that will pull away the spray very nicely. I'm going to start off with a little bit of sealer, and you should be able to see this getting taken away by the extractor. This is to give a base for the lacquer that's going to go on. So you can see a lot of the overspray being pulled up. That's a sort of a rough job done of it. That will dry off in a few moments. Don't forget, when you are spraying, it's not enough just to have extraction. You need personal protection too, a mask that's rated for vapor. So I'm going to stick this on because I'm going to be using some lacquer as well. And although I've got a fan going and moving it out and a door open, it's still not, you still need protection for your lungs. I'm going to not wear this the whole time though, but just while I'm doing the spraying. So we give that a moment to go off. As it's a demo, I'm going to cheat to give it a little bit of heat. Sort of air. So this is a new Chestnut Products product, ivory lacquer. which I'm going to put on over the sanding sealer. Although it looks like it's not dry there, it's a bit darker. It's dry enough for demo purposes. As I say, I've got enough thickness on here to turn this off and do a decent job outside of it being done as a demo. Well, next one.
Oh, come on. No, 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 no. You don't want to do that. Come on.
Right. So I'm going to give that a few moments to just dry off. Turn off that extract. It's already pulled all the fumes that it's going to pull out. Generally, I don't like white on the wood, and I'm probably going to cover most of it up, but it was going to provide some luminosity behind the color that I'm going to put on it, which I'm not going to put a solid block of color on. But I've been experimenting with this tool for doing texture, and I've done a couple of things with it. I'll just show them on the overhead camera. I think it's yeah, so these two have been done with the texture's been done with that tool. So this one, you can see it's been mucked about a little bit. If I'm going to change the camera, actually, I'll put it on the tailstock. So you'll recognize here these sweeps of texture. They were done with that tool, although this is a little bit of a smaller blank, just sweeping around. I sprayed it white, then sprayed it red, and it looked like strawberries and cream for a while. But I kept on experimenting and mix up some gold paint, which I'm going to mix in a moment, when that white's had a little bit of time to dry, and then put on some stain over the top, and it got a very nice shimmery kind of effect. And then I turned some of it away and did some pyrography and lots more coloring. So that was my first play with that tool. This was done with the same thing, but rather than pushing in lines across, I just held it in places and did lots of little dots, well, big dots with it. And then they've been also had the white lacquer on, and you can still see some of it coming through in the bottom of these lines, because that tool, when you keep it still, it cuts lots of little tiny grooves with the carbide points on that burr. And then it's been sprayed blue that way, so you can see blue on this side and then green the other way. So it's got a sort of two-tony kind of effect going on. If you look at it at a flatter angle, this side looks blue and that side looks green. But if I keep spinning it around, you can see it always looks like blue on one side, green on the other. It's one of those internet phenomenons. Is it blue or is it green? It's both. And then a bit of black over the top just to show where the texture is. So coming back to this, we're probably not anywhere near dry. Ooh, nearly. I'm going to give it a little bit of heat. Just to dry it off. And then a quick paint effect. Okay, did the youngest get lacquer on my monitor? The youngest person usually who works in here, yeah, they certainly got something on my monitor. Right, that's touch dry. So what I'm going to do now is make my own iridescent paint. it's interesting, isn't it? Because Joe Sonia make an iridescent gold, but they're iridescent and interference are terms that I think used a bit interchangeably as we looked at when we did the last Zoom, I think, which was iridescent paints, wasn't it? So I'm going to mix some iridescent medium with some of this gold and put that over the surface. And that also would need a little bit of encouragement to dry, as we're into overtime now. So I've got my little traveling palette. So I put some gold in there. And it's quite a thick paint, this one. And then the iridescent medium. So it's going to give the gold even more of a shimmering effect and make it sparkle, which I am relying upon to improve the appearance of the next color that I'm going to put on. Right, so how much of this am I going to put in? A similar-ish amount, maybe 60-40. 60 paint, 40 medium, and mix that up. And the thing about using the mediums is it shouldn't change the color. It will just change the viscosity of the paint. So we've got that nicely mixed up. There's a big hard dried lump. Let's get that out. So I'm going to put this over the white. And you might be thinking, why have you painted it white? Well, some of the white is still going to show through. I'm not going to do it super neatly. It's just to get a shimmer coat, which I'm just dolloping it around. Again, I would take a little bit more care if I weren't doing this under a time pressure, but also the surface is going to be very textural because of the fact that I didn't have time to get all of the fluff off. So we can see we've still got some white showing through. That's going to still show through when we get our color on. Okay, that's enough of that. A bit of heat to cheat. Let's check if we've got any more questions. Nearly dry. So maybe you can see, I mean, gold is a pretty shimmery color anyway. Just get some gloves. Now, if you wanted to improve the shine, obviously some lacquer over the top would do that. I'm not going to have time to do that today, but that's what's been done on this one. This one's had about 3 coats of lacquer put on. The shine is really hard to photograph, but it really gives it almost a look of ceramic surface to it, which I rather like. So we've used lacquer, which is a sort of glossy finish anyway, gold paint, which is shiny, but I put some iridescence in it to make it even shinier. And now I'm going to use spirit stains. And I'm going to go with the sort of peacocky colours. If I can find my airline, there it is. And turn the compressor on. So I'm going to start off with the blue. And again, remember, if you're doing this in your own workshops, wear your face protection, your breathing protection. I'm going to put the extractor on as well. There we go. And some blue going on. I use the middle bit to see how it's going, how it's working. So this picks up on the shine underneath. And again, if you, well, so like here where we've got the white, we've got a nice sort of softer, less shiny bit. But the more you put on, the stronger the color. I'm going to mix it, combine it with a couple of other colors in a moment. And it often looks better as well once the middle is turned out. So we've done the light blue. I'm going to do some royal blue in places now. So everything that's under there, the white is helping to affect the color of the stains that are going on. The gold is adding some shine underneath the stain, showing through in some places. A little bit of green. Let's check that this is coming through all right. There we go. It's nearly there. So when they get a bit clogged up like this, the thing that I do to unblock them, cover the end up, try and get them to backwash. Otherwise, I'm going to abandon the green. There we go. And because it's alcohol-based stain, it dissolves itself. So we get a bit of this green in as well. Looking for gaps, but I don't want too much green, just a hint of it in some places. It's not showing quite as vividly on the monitor as it is in here. Now the area to look at is around the edge. So this bit up here is, you know, jumps out to me as, oh, you haven't done that bit. I'm not sure I want green all the way there, but I'll come back to my blue. I definitely want the edge to look strong. And so this bit here I like especially. Again, it's showing more vividly on my in real life than it is on the camera there. So we've got white and then we've got the gold underneath it. And then there's a little bit of drama. Let's go with a little bit of purple. Out here at some of these edges. I mean, you've got the option of spraying across at one angle with one color, then across the bottom with a different color. And interestingly, these bits where we've got the, you know, haven't sanded the grit away, we've got little tiny flecks of mostly gold showing through, actually. Okay. Right, so there we go. We've got our peacock colours. It's a shame it's not showing it quite so
I gotta stop this, but
vividly on the monitor. But
why?
often say if I just put a wooden edge against it, it will give us something looking a little neater.
That's
I'm not gonna turn the whole thing off. Just
my breath.
a wooden edge. About there.
Hey, just hold it. I'm looking at something right here, Rudy.
We got someone with an open mic who's asking a question, or no? Okay, just muted everyone. There was an open mic somewhere. Right, turn that off. We've got some bits of it sticking to it where it's a little bit wet. So I'm going to take that off the chuck, and then we're just about done. If I can find where I put the chuck key. There it is, right in front of me. Move this out of the way, and then I can put it on the overhead camera. So And come onto the overhead. There we go. So you can see the sheen that having the gold and the lacquer underneath adds to the stain. The stain on its own wouldn't shine in this way. As I say, it's just a quick demonstration of it. It needs to be a bit neater. I needed a bit more sanding, really, to be of better quality. But that's something to have a play with. It would probably work over black lacquer, shiny black lacquer, and then that gold paint and the iridescence. But you can see that you could almost probably, if you spent a bit of time on it, get some very nice sort of mother of pearl effects. Obviously, you'd need to do the colouring a little bit differently rather than the big sort of sweeps of colour that I've done. That's about it for today. We've gone over about 10 minutes. Apologies. Get carried away with myself, don't I? But if you've got any questions, now is your last chance to ask them. Otherwise, you'll have to send them over by email. I'll just stop the recording and then we'll finish the meeting. So
I like it, Stuart. It's good.
oh, thank you, Christine.